Tracy Hudson, and I'd like to welcome you to our session today at the CEC Conference 2021. Wish we were in person, but glad to have you virtually. Our session is No Limits, How a PLN Impacts Special Education. I'm Tracy Hudson from the University of Delaware, Delaware Academy for School Leadership, and I've been an educator for over 40 years. I started out as a middle school, then elementary teacher. I've been a special ed coordinator, reading specialist, and administrator. For the last 10 years, I've worked for the University of Delaware, and I am currently a leadership specialist at the Delaware Academy for School Leadership. And I'm going to introduce my colleague, Allison Travers, and let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks, Tracy. My name is Allison Travers, and like Tracy said, we work for a center called the Delaware Academy for School Leadership at the University of Delaware, where we serve and partner with school districts and schools and the Department of Education in the state of Delaware. And we also partner with outside states, and we've done this for almost 20 years. And in our center, one role that I have is coordinating our principal preparation program and determining the content that is most critical for incoming school leaders, and also setting up our partnerships and structures for supporting schools and districts. So a couple of school years ago, we started thinking about what we know about effective professional learning and school improvement. And we created what we call the University of Delaware Professional Learning Network. And the topic that we framed our network around was leading special education. The reason is that many of the school leaders that we coach and support in their roles tell us that the number one thing that keeps them up at night is issues related to special education and serving all students and families. We knew this was a critical topic, and what we know about effective adult learning is that being able to interact with others who are doing the same work and to talk about what we're doing, to share our expertise and knowledge is a critical way for us to learn and grow. And so we created the Professional Learning Network to address the topic of special education in a setting that would work well for school leaders and their teams. When we formed the network, we knew that it was important for us to partner with a couple of different organizations in our state. DASL, as we like to call ourselves, the Delaware Academy for School Leadership, is knowledgeable and has expertise in leading schools and districts, and we support a variety of leadership initiatives. We also decided to partner with the Center for Disability Studies within our university and their content experts who could support the school teams that join the network. And in addition, we partnered with the Delaware Department of Education in their role of supporting schools and districts, specifically around special education. So what is a professional learning network? When we formed it, to us, it was an opportunity for the University of Delaware to support schools and districts by creating a structure for a community of educators and leaders to come together, to collaborate, to learn together and share our expertise and knowledge, as well as to learn from a group of University of Delaware specialists and from a national expert who we will share in just a minute.
This model provided a transformative, collaborative professional learning experience for our schools and districts that decided to participate in it. And as Allison mentioned earlier, DASL used our leadership development knowledge to help school leaders set up a successful leadership team structure as they join the PLN. And these are some of the roles that we encourage school leaders to include in their PLN team. We made it mandatory for the principal or their assistant or associate principal to be on the team to lead this work. The literature shows that principals are most likely to be leading or responsible for special education in their building. And we thought it was important that they be there to support the team. We have provided several reflection tools on the conference app that you can download. The first reflection tool helps you consider who should be on your team if you are going to develop a of PLN to leaving special education. If you choose to create one, feel free to use this reflection document to kind of record some of your thoughts as you start to plan. So if you would like, you could pause the video now. Allison's showing the reflection tool on the slide, and you can pause, think about who you would like to use or include on your team as you get ready to move forward. Also, we were going to tell you a little bit about how we structured our PLN. Before we all went home and had to do everything virtually, we were able to offer both in-person and virtual sessions to meet the various needs of our partners. So we would bring the teams together for in-person sessions, and those would include a professional development and team time. Our participants said team time was very important for them. They had a really hard time at school carving out that time to meet and talk about their goals and different ideas that they wanted to work on to improve special education in their building. But we knew that our school leaders and our teams were busy. So we also offered some of our sessions virtually, but we still included that PD and team time. So they would have time to talk about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to implement some of the ideas and that we discussed. Then we also provided school visits, what we called site visits, and these were differentiated by the teams that participated in the PLN according to their goals, and we provided differentiated resources and differentiated support. And then we had an end of the year network celebration to celebrate the work we did and for everybody to share the work they did, so everybody had a chance to participate and learn from each other, because this was a network, and part of the network was working together and collaborating. We did bring in a national expert. We did some research as we were planning our professional learning network, and we found research from Dr. David Bateman and his resource that he had written, A Principal's Guide to Special Education. Dr. Bateman is a professor at Shippensburg University in the Department of Educational Leadership and Special Education, where he teaches courses on special education law, assessment, and facilitating inclusion. He's a former due process hearing officer for Pennsylvania. And you probably have heard him at the CEC conventions. He's been involved in a lot of the CEC activities. So he was very helpful as we planned our professional development using his resource, and we connected the professional development we provided with the guide, and he came to all of our face-to-face sessions and did talk about the site visits a little later in the presentation. He also came to some of our site visits when requested. So he was a helpful resource. So it's nice to have a national expert to help guide some of the professional learning in your network.
As Tracy mentioned earlier, when she was talking about the structure of the PLN, one of the elements that we always included in each session is professional learning. And we identified some areas that we thought would be helpful to our school participating teams, but we knew that we should ask them what was most relevant to them and where their needs were. And so we always surveyed our participating school teams and asked them to, identify for us which topics would be most relevant to meet their school team goals, which we'll talk about in just a minute. These are some of the topics that were provided in any given year of our professional learning network. And we were able to offer multiple topics during each session delivered by University of Delaware content specialists, by leadership specialists, by our Department of Education, and by participants of the network. So it really was a place where we could come together and learn from one another. And these are just some of the topics that we were delivered. And so what we would encourage you to do if you're thinking about creating a professional learning network and engaging a team is to think about which of those topics that were on the screen would be relevant to your school? Or what are some other topics that you would want to make sure that you included in your professional learning network PD model?
Additionally, at the beginning of the PLN, we asked school teams to set some goals related to their experience and progress in the network. And this goal was front and center all the way through the network as we provided professional development, thinking about their goals and how they were making progress towards their. Each participating team determined their own goals that they wanted to work on. So these were individualized. And I'm going to share a protocol on the next few slides that we had the PLN teams use to come to consensus on their goals. If you've already formed a PLN team and you're with your team, we would encourage you to pause the video after reviewing the protocol and engage with your team collaboratively to start thinking about your school or district goals that you and your outcomes that you would like for a professional learning network. We imagine that some individual teachers might be watching this video at the conference, but if you think this is something that you want to pursue, you could bring your PLN team together later and brainstorm your goals following this protocol and thinking about what goals you would like to set. So just review the protocol. It's on the reflection tool that we have shared in the app. Take some time, think about what is your school doing well related to special education services. What do you think you can do better for all students? And what would you need to do to help your students be more successful? And then share these thoughts with your team so that you can develop your goals and revise them, make additions. So you might want to individually think about this and collaboratively think about your goals as you work with your team. And so, as I said, you can stop the video now if you're with your team and talk about these goals, or you can bring your team together later if you wanted to develop the network.
In addition to the protocol that Tracy shared, we have an additional way you may want to start thinking about and setting school goals, and that's to start with your data. So in the reflection document, we also provided a different chart that you might use to start thinking about and writing down some ideas related to your school or district data. If you had already formed a PLN team and were with them, as Tracy said, we would encourage you to pause the video and use one of the tools that we provided, either the protocol or this T-chart, in order to help you start a conversation that's informed by data about your school team needs and goals. If you're going to pause the video, I would encourage you to check out the next slide first. So in one of our network sessions, the very first session, we had our school teams anonymously share some of their learning network goals. And you can see them on the screen. Can't see the names of the schools or the locations, but what's important to notice is that each team in this network was hopeful to address different issues and needs in their school or district. Some of those are related to supporting behavior. Some of them are related to instruction, supporting their staff and teachers, training, communication, collecting meaningful data. There are so many different examples of things that they hope to address by joining the network. And that's where we were really excited because we were able to offer them differentiated professional learning opportunities each time we met, able to provide them with some time to talk with their school team and some experts to support them. And we actually were able to provide them with a few other ways in which they could benefit as a school team from being in this network. Tracy's going to share the next one.
This was a strength of the PLN. Teams were able to work with thought partners. We worked hard to try to match teams together that we thought would really be able to collaborate together and serve as thought partners to share ideas about their goals and their progress towards their goals, brainstorm different ideas. And the participants said this was really helpful to them to think about how they wanted the work they wanted to do in their building, maybe revisions they wanted to make to their goals, and how they were going to move forward in the professional learning network. So you may be working individually as a district, as a school, or you might be able to think about someone else in your district that could be your thought partner that maybe would like to pursue a professional learning network as well. So if you want to stop the video, you could take some time now to think about who could be your thought partner in your professional learning network, and that's on the reflection tool, or you may want to come back to it later.
Something else that we wanted to share that was really helpful to the participating schools in our networks was the tools that were shared with them through our professional learning content. So we've just shared two on the screen. Tracy mentioned earlier Dr. David Bateman and his contributions to the content of our networks. And we actually used a tool from his book, A Principal's Guide to Special Education. You can see it on the screen. It was a placement checklist that some of the participating schools in the network chose to use to start thinking about issues related to student placement. In addition, some other schools chose to use the Fidelity Integrity Assessment from SWIFT, and they were able to partner with their school team to look through the tool and to identify areas that they would start to focus on and address as a school. And they also had some time to talk about it with a school partner. So those are just two of the tools that we utilized during our professional learning sessions in a recent PLN.
As we mentioned the format of the PLN, we told you that we did do site visits. And site visits were one way that we could differentiate the network support for each participating school team. We created a protocol for how each team should prepare to maximize their site visit, and you can see that on the screen. Then we would utilize an additional protocol for University of Delaware experts to facilitate a 90-minute site visit based on the school's goals. We would ensure that the University of Delaware expert that attended was able to provide the resources and experience to support of the school they were visiting. For example, we had a school team set a goal regarding a care plan for school-wide implementation of universal design for learning. And the individuals who facilitated that site visit were trained to support UDL. So you can review this slide with the site visits, or you can come back and just talk about how that you could implement that with your team later.
And something else that we wanted to share with you about the content of our PLN in Delaware is that after March of 2020, we were still facilitating a professional network for the school year. And we had to find a creative way to continue to deliver the content that our participating schools had already told us that they wanted and needed, and to layer in some relevance with their current remote learning setting for their students. And so we were able to create a series of asynchronous videos that all of the participants in the network could access at any time that suited them. We knew they were busy, but we were able to still engage our partners in the Center for Disability Studies at the University of Delaware, content experts. We were able to engage our Delaware Department of Education, as well as our national expert, Dr. David Bateman, and the leadership specialist from our team. And what we came up with was some very relevant content to what those school teams were facing at the very present time. So some of the content was related to just updates from our Department of Education related to special education in the spring of 2020. Other topics were related to delivering instruction remotely, engaging with parents through IEP meetings virtually, and some other considerations for the work that they were doing with all of their students in the remote setting. So we added that content. But as you've heard from Tracy and myself, our network was really formed as a means for school teams to find some support and some statewide expertise through professional learning, through time to work with a special education leadership focused team at their school level, through the use of thought partners from other schools and districts, and through a site visit from content experts at the university level or the state level. And so by bringing all of those pieces together in this network, we feel that we were able to create a very powerful learning experience for the adult learners on the school teams that chose to participate. We've seen evidence that they're continuing to work through the goals that they set over the past few school years in the network, and we continue to keep in touch with them to provide support for reaching their goals and we continue to create additional professional learning networks to support school leaders in the state of Delaware with carrying out their work on behalf of all students, and especially including their special education goals and needs. If you'd like to learn more about the work of the Delaware Academy for School Leadership or our professional learning networks, you can visit our website, or Tracy and I have left our contact information on the screen. We would be happy if you reached out to us and let us know what questions you have, or engage with us in conversation about the support that we all provide to educators as they're doing their important work of supporting all students. We thank you for attending our session today, and we hope to connect with you soon.